Today on the program Ukraine Today, Ukraine will fight back. A new technology to shoot down Russian drones has been developed in Kiev, a secret weapon against Putin. Trump is preparing a devastating blow against Russia. Russia's only aircraft carrier has been destroyed. Putin is preparing to strike with nuclear weapons. China is entering the war. Beijing is urging Putin to attack NATO. All this and more. Hello, my name is Karina Krishin. Leave a like and let's get started. Ukraine has begun developing interceptor drone technologies as part of its air defense system.
They have a detailed plan for 1,000 unmanned aerial vehicles, commonly known as drones. 700 to 1,000 drones per day. Now, if our trusted partners hear everything I have thoroughly discussed with them in full detail, we will certainly be able to shoot everything down effectively. We have a solution: interceptor drones that shoot down targets.
All the technologies for these drones were developed from scratch. After all, when Ukraine started working on interceptor drones, there were no ready-made solutions neither with us nor with our partners. As of today, there are already the first results. Ukrainian unmanned systems are already repelling Russia's massive air attacks. In particular, they are shooting down Iranian Shahed drones. Every night, dozens of enemy drones are now being intercepted thanks to Ukrainian technologies. Iran spent over 20 years developing this Shahed technology. In more than 3 years of full-scale war, Russia has not created a single innovative solution in the field of drones. Ukraine, on the other hand, is building a new system from scratch, and it is already operational. Kiev does not disclose exactly how the interceptors are manufactured and launched, but the results of this work are evident. By the way, just a week ago, it felt like Washington was reducing its military support for Kiev. But today we can already talk about what exactly Ukraine is receiving from the US. More details ahead.
US President Trump stated that he is dissatisfied with his phone conversation with Putin, so he will send more weapons to Ukraine.
Honestly, I'm disappointed that Putin hasn't stopped the war. I'm not at all satisfied with Putin. That doesn't work for me either. We're going to send a bit more weapons to Ukraine. We have to. They must have the ability to defend themselves. Right now, they're taking heavy hits. They've suffered a lot, and we're going to have to send more weapons.
Most likely, it appears that Donald Trump used the temporary suspension of a crucial aid package intended for Ukraine as a strategic maneuver to appease Vladimir Putin just prior to their significant phone conversation, which ultimately took place spanning from the third day to the fourth day. And this just shows that Trump did not achieve the desired diplomatic effect from this decision.
The statement also appeared on the Pentagon's website. That is, Ukraine should soon receive the previously delayed air defense munitions.
At President Trump's direction, the Department of Defense is sending additional defensive weapons to Ukraine to ensure that the Ukrainians can defend themselves. While we are working to secure a lasting peace and to ensure an end to the killings, our work to assess military supplies around the world remains in effect and is an integral part of our defense priorities. America first.
Previously, the White House stated that they had suspended arms shipments around the world, allegedly because of shortages in US stockpiles. But the information was not confirmed.
It was a standard Pentagon review of all weapons, all aid and all support that the United States provides to all countries and all regions around the world, not just Ukraine. When the Secretary of Defense took office, he instructed the Pentagon to conduct this review to ensure that everything being sent abroad aligns with America's interests.
The main negative impact of this suspension was directly on Trump's reputation and his support. It caused a very serious turbulence within the American political establishment.
For now, the US is only willing to send weapons for defensive purposes so as not to damage Trump's image as a peacemaker. But the situation could change if the Europeans start to act more decisively.
It is necessary and most likely to bring our European partners to the forefront, as they should demonstrate a proactive stance in providing offensive weaponry. But, for example, the sovereign nation of Germany could indeed decide to provide Ukraine with its advanced Taurus missiles, which in this particular context would effectively allow the United States to completely avoid saying that their supplied weapons are not purely defensive, but rather offensive in nature, and that they are certainly not fueling the ongoing conflict.
No matter how hard Putin tries, no one in the civilized world will accept his position, especially with the ongoing shelling and killing of civilians.
Vladimir Putin, the current leader, does not genuinely desire peace. Instead, it appears that Putin truly wants even more widespread bloodshed and conflict. That is why today Russia attacked Ukraine again. Iranian-Shah'd drones, missiles and bombs were flying. Several Ukrainian cities were under attack. In total, Ukraine's Air Force shot down 344 targets. That includes 25 cruise missiles and 319 Shahed attack drones. But the Kremlin managed to kill 2 civilians and injure more than 20 people. Trump responded to the strikes on Ukraine. He is aware of Putin's attacks and has promised a response. We are eagerly awaiting a response from the United States. Moreover, as reported by journalists from The Telegraph, Putin will be defenseless since Trump has a special secret weapon. Trump also promised to make a very important statement regarding Russia on Monday. Putin has angered the American president, and that's a fact. The first step is supplying weapons to Ukraine. What will the next step be? We'll see. What do you think? Write your thoughts in the comments. Meanwhile, China has helped Russia build and launch one of the largest drone manufacturing plants. Details in the report.
The Russian press reports that the factory was built in Khabarovsk with the help of Chinese partners, and it is becoming one of the main suppliers of drones for Russian army operations.
The Arrowhead company's factory, which receives government funding, plans to increase drone production to 10,000 units per month this year and expand manufacturing by introducing more advanced models.
And even though the Chinese authorities claim that despite their unlimited partnership with Russia, China does not supply Russia with military technologies that could be used in aggression against Ukraine, the Kremlin continues to insist otherwise. They say that without China's help, it would have been impossible to produce so many UAVs for the needs of the front.
The problem is everywhere. Batteries, engines, video, data, transmission systems.
All of this the drone manufacturing company Arrowhead is now ordering from China. Since 2022, the Khabarovsk-based company has been producing drones for military purposes.
And it doesn't stop there. A Bloomberg investigation based on documents obtained by the agency also points to alleged close cooperation between Beijing and Moscow. The Russian company Arrowhead has been working closely with the Chinese since the beginning of 2023. Their relationship was briefly interrupted due to sanctions. The Russian UAV manufacturer was blacklisted by the US in June 2024, and in November it came under UK sanctions as well. However, according to the documents, contracts with Chinese partners were restored at the end of the same year. And since May 2025, the two sides have been negotiating the localization of production in Russia.
Documents dated from May 2022 to June 2025 show the extent to which Moscow conceals its suppliers and delivers equipment to its military, often using intermediaries operating in other sectors such as air transportation, agricultural supplies, and seafood transportation services.
However, things are not as bad as they seem. According to domestic military analysts, one should not take Bloomberg journalists or even more so Russian propagandists at their word.
The information, to use technical terms, is exaggerated. In other words, it does not correspond to reality. There are a number of inconsistencies in this information, starting with the feasibility of producing these drones.
According to the Moscow Times, this year the Russians plan to ramp up drone production in Khabarovsk to 10,000 units per month. For reference, that's equal to the annual output of UAVs at the largest plant in Alabuga. At the same time, so far, Arrowhead is only delivering a trial batch of 100 units to the army. Where the other 9,900 drones claimed by the Kremlin have disappeared too remains a mystery, as does the final cost per unit. While Bloomberg cites a figure of $1,000, Russian media inflated by a factor of 8.
The Autel Evo Max 4T was originally developed for civilian use but has proven to be highly effective in combat thanks to a number of key advantages such as its interference-resistant radio module, explains Arrowhead. The sale price will be 650,000 rubles per unit.
All these discrepancies in the figures lead analysts to believe that the Kremlin's loud statements serve only as a smokescreen for Putin. While the whole world discusses the colossal capacity of the Khabarovsk plant, actual production, far from the reach of Ukrainian drones, may in fact be relocated to China.
The most dangerous situation for the Ukrainian side is when Russian entrepreneurs move a fiber optic manufacturing facility for Russian FPV drones to the territory of the People's Republic of China. This is the most dangerous scenario for the Ukrainian side. At the moment, there is information about the relocation of production of batteries for strike drones to the territory of the People's Republic of China. This trend is the most threatening for the Ukrainian side. That is the direct transfer of production under the supervision of Russian specialists to the territory of the People's Republic of China itself.
This is exactly where Western American sanctions need to come into play. These are what Chinese manufacturers fear the most. According to analysts, it would be enough for the White House to merely hint at ending cooperation with certain companies from China for them to abandon any thoughts of relocating Russian military production to their homeland once and for all.
Record activity by the occupiers has been observed in the Zaporizhzhia direction. Russian forces have intensified assaults with small groups in all directions, using drones, buggies, and motorcycles. According to the military, in previous years the intensity was significantly lower. Apparently, the enemy's goal is to cut off logistics toward Donetsk and advance deeper in order to capture the entire region. In fact, the occupiers have already managed to capture one settlement in Zaporizhzhia region and one settlement in Donetsk region. This was reported by Deep State. Next, let's talk about what is currently happening at the front.
This video shows a convoy of more than 20 trucks. Inside are Caucasian militants. The vehicles are traveling through Mariupol to Taganrog. Russia is trying to bring in additional forces to the Sumy region. The buildup of additional forces is happening because the situation for the aggressor country's troops in the Sumy direction has started to deteriorate. The Ukrainian armed forces are advancing along the flanks and trying to encircle the positions of the Russian army.
The situation of Russian troops in the Sumy direction has started to deteriorate. In certain areas, forward units of the Ukrainian armed forces have advanced to tactical depths and have bypassed some enemy positions from the flanks.
At the border, the enemy is trying to attack with small assault groups in order to seize local territories. But such actions are not helping the occupiers.
The Russian Kursk group of troops, part of the North military grouping, which had previously been actively advancing in the border area of Ukraine's Sumy region, has lost its ability to advance. Over the past few days, forward units of the Ukrainian armed forces have, through several counterattacks in certain areas, sharply complicated their situation. In the western part of this tactical salient,
the channels, citing the Russian Ministry of Defense, triumphantly reported the capture of a settlement in the Dnipropetrovsk region.
Servicemen of the Otvazhnie group, during decisive actions, liberated the settlement of Dakhne in the Dnipropetrovsk region.
As it turned out, this was yet another fabrication. Here is a video of the soldiers from the 37th Separate Marine Brigade raising their flag in the village of Dakhne, thereby disproving the claims of Russian propaganda. The situation on the border between the Donetsk and the Dnipropetrovsk regions is dynamically tense, as the Russian army has numerical superiority there and is attempting breakthrough operations. For Russia, this direction is primarily a political objective, which is needed for propaganda purposes.
For them, the Dnipropetrovsk region is a political decision. I think dozens of manuals have already been prepared by Russian propagandists for this, who are just waiting for some kind of advance to launch another wave of disinformation, claiming that the Russians have successfully broken through with a wide front somewhere toward the Dnipropetrovsk region. Although, in military terms, this will not have any real significance for them.
In the Zaporizhia region, near the town of Polohi, Ukrainian aviation managed to destroy an enemy UAV command post. Also in this region, according to the deep state resource, Russian forces managed to occupy the village of Lobkov. However, the defense forces south denied this information, citing a possible malfunction of the online resource.
The situation in southern Ukraine is quite difficult but under control. As for whether to comment or not, since deep state marks positions on the map, I'll say this. Over the past week, there have been no assaults in the direction of Lobkov and Stepne.
According to analysts, the wave of the Russian army's offensive in the Zaporizhia direction has stalled, but that does not mean there won't be further attempts.
First of all, in the Sumy direction, things are not as good for the Russians as they try to portray. Secondly, in the Zaporizhia direction, directly on the front line, the first wave of the Russian offensive has stalled. This does not mean it is over because they have not abandoned their plans, but it does mean that our defense forces have effectively resisted them. If this continues throughout the summer, then in fact the Russian summer offensive in Zaporizhia will be thwarted. Petro Andriushchenko, Center for the Study of Occupation.
Currently, every day the Russian army carries out about 200 attacks on average, using small groups and without armor. And at this point, such actions are no longer yielding results as they did before.
Putin used to love boasting about his fleet, but now the Russian fleet has been almost destroyed. And not only because of the Ukrainian military who destroyed it, but also due to sanctions and corruption in the Kremlin. The only Russian aircraft carrier, Admiral Kuznetsov, is being sent for scrap after 7 years of repairs. As the Russians themselves say, it's all because of the high cost of repairs and operation, and due to sanctions and Ukrainian attacks on the fleet, Russia can no longer afford such an expensive aircraft carrier. Interestingly, while Admiral Kuznetsov was undergoing repairs, someone kept setting it on fire. We don't rule out that it could have been Ukrainians. These constant fires have caused millions of dollars in damage, and so Russia, along with its fleet, is quietly sinking to the bottom. Meanwhile, a mutiny is brewing in the Russian army. Unfortunately, not everywhere so far, only in one of the Marine brigades. The soldiers, occupiers, murderers, rapists, thieves are dissatisfied with how the leadership treats them. Details in the report.
We are bored. Stagnation. We want some action.
Putin talked about action, and his army made it a reality.
And over there are freshly dug graves. And here they are in the fields of Fancy Yet.
They have been silent since Putin's full-scale invasion of Ukraine began. But after 3 years, this brigade found itself on the verge of open mutiny, something the Kremlin greatly fears.
The commander finds a use for you in order to accomplish the assigned task. No one would ever send a disabled person on an assault that was just given.
The soldiers are refusing to follow orders, including former members of the Wagner PMC. Everyone is openly rebelling.
Our brave boys. It's just truly terrible.
We are going to talk about the Russian 155th Separate Marine Brigade.
But for some reason, no one tells us that Demat, the leadership Demat, is all dead. Why the 155th? Because for hamsters, it hit the target exactly.
Ukrainian forces struck in the Kursk region on the 2nd of July, eliminating almost the entire leadership of the 155th Brigade.
I ask you to honor the memory of Mikhail Gudkov and his fellow soldiers.
The Russians acknowledged the death during this strike of Major General Mikhail Gudkov, the deputy commander of the Russian Navy. He was at the head of the 155th Brigade.
A Russian officer, a true soldier of Russia. Your husband passed away while on duty.
Gudkov is the highest-ranking loss since 2022. Putin promised to immortalize his memory with a school and a street in occupied Donetsk. His 155th Brigade took part in the occupation, where after the troops retreated, hundreds of dead civilians were found in the Kiev region. The Kremlin took tough measures to rein in the fighters from the 155th and sent the butcher Akhmedov to them. He has already given the order to eliminate those who refuse to fight. This Akhmedov has a reputation as a cruel and incompetent commander. He sent the occupiers to their deaths without any preparation. So what is the 155th Pacific Fleet Marine Brigade known for? It earned the nickname Black Death because it suffered enormous losses, and Gutkov was called the Sickle. He sent units into assaults without any support. The brigade has a bad history. Our defenders have already wiped it out several times, but each time it was reconstituted, and with a new lineup and leadership, it carried out criminal missions. In 2022, it was this very brigade that took part in Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine during the attempted advance on the village of Moshun in the Kiev region. Most of the losses were suffered by the 155th.
The 155th Brigade has already had to be replenished 3 times. The first time was after Irpin and Bucha. The second time they were crushed near Donetsk. They recovered again. But now almost the entire brigade has been destroyed near Vuhledar.
Cool and daring. That's how Putin described the 155th this battle.
The Marines from the forest fight fully, skillfully and boldly, demonstrating their unwavering resolve.
The Russian Federation constantly sends the Marine Brigade on meat-grinder assaults under sniper fire. In 2023, after yet another assault in the battles near Vuhledar, only about 8 people were left from the assault brigade. Many were taken prisoner.
The call sign of the 155th Marine Brigade. There is no doubt that the objectives will be achieved.
After the start of the Ukrainian Armed Forces operation in the Kursk region, units of the 155th Brigade were redeployed towards Kursk.
After we arrived, the enemy no longer felt as comfortable as they had before. And when they found out that the 155th Brigade had come here, they stopped engaging us in any kind of firefight altogether.
The 155th is known for its brutality and war crimes. They continued committing them even on Russian territory.
If it weren't for the drones, we would have kicked them out a long time ago, either back to where they came from or far, far away.
Russian soldiers from the 155th Brigade beheaded a Ukrainian prisoner of war. A video was also released showing soldiers from the brigade shooting 6 Ukrainian servicemen. The assault in the Kursk region ended epically for the 155th. For the sake of appearances, these elite Marines, recalling 1,945, hung victory flags on their tank. In the end, that very elite Russian 155th Marine Brigade didn't even make it to the first line of defense.
The 155th, in a column under red flags as if on parade, marched head-on into a swarm of drones along a mined road. Don't rub your eyes. We wrote everything correctly. It really was under red victory flags, and really along a mined road. These aren't planning mistakes. This is betrayal and murder.
The commander was blamed for everything by foreign intelligence services without any mention of the botched operation. But soon the Russian Marines surrendered to the Ukrainian armed forces in the Kursk region, and the God-separate Marine Brigade of the Pacific Fleet was defeated. Putin also agreed to grant the Marines the honorary title of Kursk.
Without a doubt, their request will be granted, along with words of gratitude for everything they do for the motherland.
Thus, the legendary Marines of the 155th Brigade of the Pacific Fleet are now moving toward our common victory, breaking through and reclaiming the lands of my native Kursk region. And the enemy knows this, which is why they are already retreating. While their command receives medals for brutality, Russia's 155th Marine Brigade can easily be awarded the status of the most unsuccessful unit in the entire full-scale war against Ukraine.
Overall, crime in Russia is breaking records. The number of serious crimes has risen to its highest level in the past 15 years. This is happening against the backdrop of Russia's war against Ukraine and amnesties for criminals in Russia. Here are the details.
Crime in Russia is breaking records. The number of serious crimes has reached a 15-year high amid the war and amnesties for convicts. Stories of new victims of these so-called heroes emerge literally every day. Despite this, according to Putin, they are the new elite of Russia.
The more I talk and ask for help, the more he starts beating me. Then my husband, well, as he comes to his senses, he starts attacking us even more, probably to finish us off so that no one would come, no one would save us. So I whisper in my husband's ear, I say, Oleg, let's pretend to be dead, let's pretend to be dead.
They are the ones who should take leading positions in the education system and in raising the youth in public organizations, in state companies, in business, in government and municipal administration, to head regions and enterprises in the end.
Serial killers and pedophiles are being released, so the number of crimes against children has increased several times over.
Russian serviceman from Primorsky Krai, Stanislav Tsabiev, has been accused of rape by at least 2 girls in the past month.
I can't really speak.
These are the emotions of the father of 11-year-old Anastasia Yakina.
She was the best child I had.
The girl was killed by a pardoned participant of the war, 40-year-old Vladimir Alexandrov, who was released by Putin. He confessed that he raped the girl in his room and then took her to the basement where he killed her.
In the Kemerovo region, the murderer of a 12-year-old girl was caught. This is former convict Andrei Baikov, who ended up free after going to fight in Ukraine. 12-year-old Karina disappeared on the morning of June 18th. Her body was found in a well a day later. Baikov is a repeat offender. He has been imprisoned 6 times, including for murder.
More than 1,000 are working in schools and with children's and youth groups, and we will definitely continue to do this. The best upbringing is by personal example.
At the same time, repeat offender maniacs continue to be granted pardons to replenish the ranks of the criminal army. And all the atrocities they commit are conveniently disguised by blaming migrants.
According to the results from January to March of 2025, unfortunately, and this is a negative trend, there has been a 15% increase in crimes committed by foreign citizens. Do you know what they are doing? It's not just violence. It's the illegal trafficking of narcotic substances. 65% of the crimes are related to the illegal trafficking of narcotic substances. They are bringing drugs into our country. And the number of lewd acts against children has increased by almost 20%.
But sometimes the real truth about what is actually happening in Russia breaks through even among deputies and military personnel.
Now, out of 100 reported rapes, yes, 96 of these horrific acts are committed by Russians. That's it. And 4 are committed by migrants. But let Russians do the raping. From the point of view of our nationalists, right? Apparently they think women prefer it when Russians rape them. That's it. Or kill them. Because when it comes to serious crimes, any crimes, when Russians kill, he's fine with it. So he's even okay with being killed or robbed. When it's Russians robbing him, that's fine with him too.
Right now, I'm currently in the Kursk direction. I immediately went to the head of the Kursk region police department and asked him a straightforward question: what problems do you have with Okhmat? As soon as I came in here, he smiled and said, on our territory, 187 crimes have been committed by military personnel. These include murders, rapes, and other crimes. Not a single one of these crimes was committed by fighters from the Okhmat units.
The judicial system treats SVO criminals more leniently than grandmothers holding no to war signs. And the state has created a special program for them called Time of Heroes and sends them to work in government bodies.
It is precisely from these people that we should form the true elite of the country in the future, to whom Russia can be entrusted.
We are waiting for you in all regions in leadership positions. That's how much they are needed.
Guys, you can be absolutely sure that when the special military operation finally ends and you return safely home, you will be truly needed both by your loving family and by your grateful country.
There are no connections of favoritism. There is an absolutely honest, transparent approach. Because they are Putin's God.
What can we even say about the lives of Ukrainians if the Russian authorities care so little about the lives of their own people, including children, that they are destroying them inside Russia itself at a record pace?
There is chaos at the front, chaos in the Kremlin, chaos in Russia. Putin no longer knows how to get out of this pit. But Russia has a backup plan. As the Telegraph writes, Putin could actually use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. The dictator is ready to press the button. The Kremlin's plan is to try to quickly break Ukraine with a tactical nuclear strike. After all, Russia is counting on the world's inaction in response. Another sign is Putin's official confirmation of the new nuclear doctrine. It allows for a retaliatory strike in response to conventional weapons, not just nuclear ones.
The second significant and compelling reason for utilizing this particular weapon system is the profound and existential threat to the very existence of the Russian state, even if only conventional means of warfare are employed and used against Russia.
And while Putin and his inner circle are seriously discussing the possibility of a tactical nuclear strike on Ukraine, Trump's statements regarding Europe significantly strengthen deterrence. And what do you think about this? NATO should prepare for war. China will ask Putin to attack the North Atlantic Alliance. This scenario was voiced by NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. Details in the report.
The war for Taiwan might not start in the Pacific Ocean, but in Europe. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, in an interview with the New York Times, warns if China decides to attack Taiwan, Beijing could make a deal with Moscow for Russia to distract NATO by attacking one of the alliance's member states.
If Chinese leader Xi Jinping decides to attack Taiwan, he will first call his closest ally, the head of the Kremlin, Vladimir Putin, with a request to distract NATO's attention. He will tell him, "Listen, I'm about to do this, and you need to keep them busy in Europe by attacking NATO territory." Most likely, that's exactly how it will happen.
According to Rutte, Europe has at most 5 to 7 years to prevent the opening of another front on the European continent. And for that, 2 key steps are needed.
First, NATO must be so strong that the Russians would never dare to take such a step. Second, we need to cooperate with the Indo-Pacific region, something President Trump is actively promoting. After all, we have close ties. We cooperate in the defense industry and innovation between NATO and the Indo-Pacific region.
This is no longer just a theoretical concept, it's reality. NATO is seriously aware of how deeply threats from Russia and Asia are interconnected, and a country that is eager to kill and conquer is unlikely to stop at Ukraine.
This aggression is in fact already underway, and the same was said by the German Chancellor, who mentioned that he could list a whole series of examples. He even presented a list of specifically hostile actions against Germany as well as the rest of Europe. So in reality, this aggression is already happening, and we must prepare for it and respond to it. And still we already have some skills and a certain readiness to repel these attacks. And well, at least in a negative sense, we have learned some important lessons, especially when there were attacks on our infrastructure, on gas facilities, on internet cables. So in any case, this war is already ongoing and we are fighting it. And the only way, as your own unfortunately very sad experience shows, is that experience is accumulated only in real combat situations. It's exactly the same for us.
As long as Trump is in power, Vladimir Putin may think he can try something against a NATO country. And even more so if China gives the order. And China will indeed give orders to Russia, because Russia is now in complete 100% dependence on China. That is Putin's war for sovereignty, which in his view should be achieved by destroying Ukraine, has led to Russia falling into complete dependence on China and losing its sovereignty altogether.
The war has consumed the Russian Federation, its military-industrial complex operating at its limit. According to Rutte, the Kremlin now produces 3 times more ammunition in 3 months than the entire alliance does in a year.
That's something of an exaggeration. If he meant Europe, then probably yes. If he meant not just Russia's production, but Russia plus North Korea, then probably yes. But again, the question here is what exactly he is assessing, how he is assessing it, which munitions and what kind of production. It's not entirely clear here.
Despite all this, it's important to understand, on his own, the Kremlin dictator is weak, and Russia by itself has long ceased to be so great and powerful. The main danger lies in its allies. On Moscow's side are Iran, North Korea, and increasingly China. It is Beijing that has become a vital partner for Russia, allowing the Kremlin to soften the impact of Western sanctions and continue the war. China supplies critically important components to the Russian military-industrial complex, thereby fueling the war machine waging war in the heart of Europe. If this alliance is not broken, the next, even larger-scale war could erupt simultaneously in Asia and Europe. Therefore, ignoring the potential Beijing-Moscow connection means being caught off guard.
That's all for today. Thank you for watching until the end. Subscribe to our channel, leave a like and a comment. See you next time. Glory to Ukraine! Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.